They'll blanket you in Wi-Fi and profit off the radiation. Congregation collecting the people for that Satan. I keeps it blazing, cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Don't need that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Programmed to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are mourn, just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed, disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Happy Easter, or should I say Ishtar, to all y'all out there in the know. Tonight, Rogueways is excited to host another author of fictionalized thrillers, taking the readers through the basics and even some mysteries hidden behind humanity's obsession with, reflection within, and unveiling of the stars and our progress through the ages, encoded often and throughout history in the guise of astrotheology, our ability to codify the heavens into personified narrative and religion. But tonight, Micah returns to Rogueways to discuss what we love to remember on this show, and that is that no number, date, image, archetype, or symbol is ever all good or all bad. The man with the plan is Micah Dank. Micah, thank you for coming back to Rogueways, and happy Easter to you. How are you doing tonight?
Thanks for having me. It was surprisingly easier this time around to schedule with you.
Yeah, like that last time we had a lot of back and forth and a lot of missed things, so it's nice it worked out. And on Easter, nonetheless.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the first time I've gone live in like a week and a half, I think, which is so weird for me because I go 3 times a week, you know, and so I like feel weird. I'm like rusty and,
yeah,
you know, like am I pressing the buttons right?
I have a 3-day break after today with no podcast for the first time in like 4 months. I don't know what I'm doing myself.
You just go run into the mountains and like release.
I'm just going to leave it open. If people want me on, I'll just do them. I don't know. Yeah, pretty much. No, there's no mountains in Long Island.
Oh,
our
yeah,
highest
true.
Point is like our highest point is like a landfill.
True. You can go climb the landfill and then like go diving into the cold waters. Well, before we get started, I want to remind everyone, all the Rogue Warriors out there, that the new show Middle Path is on Rockfin every Thursday. So if you've been missing Rogueways on Thursdays, that's why. Go over to Rockfin. It's a nice backup as well. If YouTube gets crazy, which they tend to do with people like us, then we have another place to go that doesn't censor anybody. And so go to Rockfin, and, you know, awesome shows. It's a little bit geared more towards the practical application of the spiritual in our everyday life without all the bullshit that most new age people like to add on to all of this type of stuff. So it's pretty cool and it's fun, and we do some practices every episode, and it's just really an awesome time. So go head over there. Speaking of not censoring, head over to rogue.locals.com where the community is. That's where we can post. And unlike Facebook, you can know for sure 100% of the time you are seeing every post and every comment, period. And that's really nice. I don't know how many of you guys have dealt with that, but I fucking hate it. I cannot stand it. I hate that people can tag me even, and I still won't be notified, and I may never see it, and that drives me insane. So over at Locals, we can share all the content we want. None of it's censored. We see everything, and it's rad. Go head over there if you want to hang out with cool people. And finally, go to rogueways.org for orgone jewelry, soulful tarot readings, spiritual guidance, and just all kinds of stuff. My novels are there. There's just a lot over there, too. So rogueways.org. And finally, Micah, the pointless question of the episode is this. What do you think the next planned mass distraction is going to be now that we've got, genetically modified humans everywhere and the COVID thing might be letting up?
Wow. Thanks for the softball question, by the way, to start the interview. I really appreciate that.
I've just been like, dude, are they going to do aliens next? Are they going to do Corona round 2? Are they going to have some mass, supposed casualty event and a false flag? Or where are we going here?
Oh, God. It could be all of that, to be honest.
I've always been like, dude, that's the way if they want to really pull
what
shit
I like
off.
to do, my favorite thing to do is when a news story hits the news waves and it's blanket coverage, look at what Congress is doing or what they're passing at that time.
For real.
because they're sneaking some shit in.
I feel like they barely even have to sneak anymore. They'll just tell us. They're like, yeah, we're going to like do this and this and this. And everyone's like, oh, okay.
Well, it's the revelation of the method, and they're literally doing it. They're literally not even being quiet about it anymore.
Yeah.
They used to have to sneak it in, but
now they're like, we got a
don't know.
dementia patient up there, and they're pretending like that's our president. Like they
Yeah.
have barbed wire, like razor wire fencing around the Capitol. And like, I don't think they have to hide anything anymore, except the child, trafficking that they
Right.
maybe still hide a little bit.
Yeah. I think we're gonna start hearing things about Maxwell and Epstein. I think that's gonna start coming in.
Good point. I've seen like a little tiny hints of it coming back. Yeah,
Mhm.
I bet you're right.
That's what I think of. That's what I think they're gonna do.
And that's like it's like everyone's wrapped up in that if it's real, and if it's not, everyone's still wrapped up in it. It's just in a fake way. But yeah, that's a good call. We'll see. We've been seeing the alien shit wrap up lately, and we've been seeing, despite that some places have this like relief of the like draconian tyranny that's been coming out with all the coronavirus shit, that other places are like, oh no, it's still really, really bad. Lots of people are testing, whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, we're still doing this? Like, come on.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, it's been absolutely crazy. Like, as far as like selling books and like me selling autographed copies of my books and like doing podcasts and like getting a publicist and like starting to pitch it to like movie heads and everything, coronavirus has been great for me because I don't gotta do shit.
That's true. Yeah, I know.
I don't have to do a damn thing. All I do is podcast all the time. I'm all over the place, and try and keep it interesting, keep the information out there. That's because there's a lot of disinformation, like with like Satanism and Luciferianism. People think it's one thing when it's really not, and I wrote my sixth book is based on that. But it's things like Illuminati hand symbols, which I wanted to get into with you tonight.
Yes.
I only have about 8 of them, but I'm going to show you how they all come from a positive place and how we can't, even though they've been co-opted and taken from us, from their positive origins to their current place, they still come from a good place. Like, if I were to ask you where the swastika comes from, where would you say that comes from?
The Hindu religion, and a bringing in of positive energy into the universe.
That's what it is, but it's actually older than that. And you're going to like this because you're into astrotheology. If you take a picture of the Big Dipper,
I already know,
on the solstices and the equinoxes, and you put those pictures together, it's the swastika. That's thousands and thousands of years before then.
That is even older. The stars are way older than Hinduism. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And that's clearly where they got it from, because it's not just them either. It's every culture. We see this symbol on every single ancient culture. If we go to their old, all of the ancient sites, all of the megalithic sites, they have the swastika somewhere. And sometimes everywhere, and they all probably got it from there. They're like we talked about last time you were on. Everything is according to the seasons and the movement of the stars and the heavenly bodies, and they notice this because that's all there is. To do is to notice this and track this and whatever. So you're absolutely right. It's way older than that. And yeah, that's a really good point. And when you're saying it comes from somewhere good and it's been inverted. I know we're going to talk about that a lot, but I would even say that it comes from somewhere neutral, and then you can make it good or you can make it bad. And we talk about that a lot on the show, like every symbol and people.
Well, agreed.
Right?
Agreed. Nothing is good or bad initially. Yeah. You ascribe its characteristics.
You use it however you want.
But these 8 symbols that I'm going to show you, which are very prevalent, which are very evil and negative nowadays, including the swastika, their original intention was positive. When they were first when they were first used, their original inscription, their original intention was
that's a good
that
point.
Was it.
And that's what they want to do, is invert it all. Well, really quickly, before we jump into some more symbols, and will you just remind people about your books so that they know, because I know we mentioned them, that they exist, but some people may not have seen you on other shows or in previous episodes, and just give people a little reminder of what they are and stuff.
So I've written a 6-book series that's basically astrotheological in basis. It's the hidden codes within the Bible, and I've written them as Dan Brown type thrillers like Da Vinci Code or Angels and Demons, where the characters basically decode and figure out these biblical hidden codes and how they apply to astrology. In my book series, the world is run by very evil people who use astrology against humanity, and they discover this and they figure out all the ancient secrets behind it. So it's a lot of truth and fiction. It's written with a lot like 1984 was, or anything that Jules Verne wrote. Basically, it's just kind of
all the best books.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll talk more too at the end. We'll remind people where they can get them. But did you mention the names?
Yeah, the series is called Into the Rabbit Hole.
And there's lots of books in them. So, what got you interested in looking into these symbols? Was it the book, or did the book come after the symbols, or what?
I just got fed up with seeing like the communities like bitching and moaning when they see this symbol or this symbol or this symbol. Like they're all saying the same stuff, and they think that they're so wise that they've decoded this evil meaning that they're trying, that everybody's showing. And it actually goes much deeper than that, to be honest with you.
But don't you agree that they are actually using them nefariously?
Yes, they are, but I'm just trying to give context to what they actually come from so that you can see that you're not supposed to be afraid of them.
Yeah, no, you should never fear those people, period, or anything they're doing. I totally agree, and I'm glad that you want to bring that to people. So which symbols did you want to talk about tonight?
We could start with this one. This one is
this is the international symbol for I'm okay underwater. I am not dying.
It is. That's what it is. And people remember when they used to say that this was the 6, and the 6?
Yes.
That's when they would say the 666. Well, the 666 symbol, which is the mark of the devil, it's the mark of the beast, is actually the mark of man. It's called the mark of man. And the reason it's 666 is the symbol of the beast or of man is because we're all carbon based, and carbon is 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons.
Right.
It's the 6th element. So that's where that comes from. Also, sometimes you see them just doing this. Sometimes you see it over the eye. It's a combination of this and this.
Mm-hmm.
It's or this and this. It's a combination when you do this. And remember when they tried to put it in the news, they tried to say that this was white power.
Oh, they're still doing it.
Are they really?
Oh, yeah. There's people who have unfriended me on Facebook because they're like, that's a white power symbol, and I'm like, I can't even begin to try to explain it to you if you believe that, because it's so not. It's also the what's the fucking game? It's like you punch people in the balls because no balls or something. My kids have played this all the time. I'm like, they're not white supremacists. They're playing a fucking game where they get to hurt each other. It's what boys do, And then it's the I'm okay. It's just like, and it's not. It is not white power. It's so stupid. It was a joke. It was a fucking joke in a chat room.
Yeah, but where this comes from, actually, watch what I do. All I'm doing is inverting it, okay? And when you do this, it's the lotus position in meditation.
True.
Okay, that's where it comes from. That's where it originally comes from. Yeah, one of many lotus positions. This is the position where you sit yourself down and you hold this position and then you drop into meditation. But all I've done is just flipped it up in order to make this. And every time you see this, the celebrities, the politicians, and everyone you see that does this, they don't know the history of that, but they don't know that goes back to a positive place. And, the intentions are always there. They're positive, even if they're taken and co-opted and said to mean something else. Like the swastika has original positive intentions. This has original positive intentions that were originally ascribed, and that's what they will be. We're never going to get the swastika back as far as like a positive symbol because of that.
What I know what you mean. I totally think you're right, but I'm also like, fuck you, I'll use it however I want. And you can, like, if you're too ignorant to figure it out, that's your problem. Like, goodbye.
Right.
But yeah, You're absolutely right that in, mass culture, it would take maybe a great reset for us to be able to go back to that without that connotation attached to it.
Right. Like, for instance, this one, when you see celebrities doing this on CD covers or in pictures, or like Lil Nas X when he has the shoe and it's like this, this goes back to the Eye of Horus, which is a very positive symbol. Now, the Eye of Horus from the Egyptians was, if you take a sagittal cut down the brain, for people who don't know, which is a straight line down the middle, and then you open the brain up, right in the middle, you'll see the pineal gland. okay, which is named after the pine cone. That's why it's the pineal gland, and it's a gland right in the middle. And then the eyebrow ridge in the eye of Horus, that's right above it. That's the corpus callosum of the brain.
Right.
So what the pineal gland does is, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this before, but it basically releases two things: melatonin when you're falling asleep at night, and it releases DMT, dimethyltryptamine, when you're in deep REM sleep in order to dream. That's what it helps you do when you go to a different dimension or an alternate reality when you're dreaming, because that's what you do. And basically, that's where this comes from. It's a very positive symbol. You know, DMT is leaked out of your pineal gland twice in your life. Once is when you're in deep REM sleep, and once is when your body shuts down as you're about to die. Your brain is flooded with it, and that's where all these near-death experiences come from, because you're actually going to a separate dimension. You know, and nobody wants to study the phenomena of non-physical. And I think that's what Tesla said. He said, or was it Tesla or Einstein that said if people studied the non-physical, they'd make more progress in 1 year than they have in all humanity.
Yeah, I forget.
Nobody wants to do that, right? But you've heard that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them said that, and it's so true. So I've given you 3 symbols so far, and all of them come from positive places. Now, this one, I don't know if you know about, but are you familiar with this one?
Yes.
This is
Triangle
the Jay-Z
of manifestation.
Yeah, this is supposed to be, when you see this, or you see Jay-Z or someone doing this, you're seeing them basically, it's like to put a spell on you, basically. Here's what they do is, it's supposed to be the pyramid, the all-seeing eye, the unfinished pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. It's the Illuminati all-seeing eye. It's Jay-Z does this. However, have you seen this symbol before? The Spock, live long and prosper. What you do is, yes, you do this, and then you connect it like this. And this is an ancient Jewish Kohanim, rabbinical blessing on the priest called the benediction. This is the original benediction.
Oh, I didn't know that.
When you do this is the original benediction, and the rabbis would do this on the congregation like this. And a lot of Kohanim still do this to this day. There's different types of Jews. You have like the Kohanim, and there's 2 others, I believe. But basically, when you do this, it's a blessing on the congregation. So it's been co-opted into this, but its origin comes from this. And this is what they would do. That's why Leonard Nimoy, who was a Kohanim Jew, knew this symbol, and he included it into Star Trek. That's why he mainstreamed it. But he never actually did this in the show. It's a little hard to do, but basically, when you do it right, it's a blessing. So I'm putting a blessing on you right now.
Blessings to you. It's interesting. It looks a little bit like the bowl as well, which that toroid time period is also connected with that. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that's the ancient. Well, the Jewish time period is from Taurus to Aries, even though it's still in. That they were the people of Aries, the Jews. They were the people of Aries. That's why they blow the ram's horn on the high holidays. And they were also the minority people in the time of the Egyptians, which was the age of Taurus.
Right.
So, yes.
Yeah, that's an awesome one too. What else do you want to bring up?
So I could do the devil horns. Are you familiar? You guys are familiar with the devil horns, right?
Yes.
The devil horns is not. So first of all, rock and roll, Kiss actually brought this to the mainstream. The band Kiss is the one.
Did this too, which I know it's just some variation, right? But I don't know if it actually.
Yeah, it's just a variation. Well, this is just a variation of this. Okay, but this is what this is it's the devil horns, but it's not the devil horns. See, they use it as the devil horns where they worship Satan, this and that. It goes back to Kiss, the band. They had some roadies early on in their career, and some of them would do this because they were gypsies. And this would basically, it's the Apana Mudra is what it is. From the ancient, I believe, Hindus, and it's for purification. It purifies the individual physically from toxins and sheds negative energies that you might be holding. That's all this does. You ever see the little Italian ladies go like this? much like the horn that the Italians keep in their car to basically protect them from the Maloki. It's just a protection. This is just a protection symbol. Okay, that's all it is. All these symbols, whether it's this or this or this or this, they all go back to positive places. And if you know that, you just laugh when you see these celebrities doing this stuff, because most of them don't know what they're doing.
No.
Most of them have no clue how deep back this goes. They just know that their publicist or someone says, "Oh, do this on the movie cover, or on the movie poster." You know, they're told what to do. It's stupid. At the higher levels, they're signaling to one another, but they might not even know what the true meaning is either.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing that's very interesting about it, is like all of the ones that you're bringing up, and I'm sure any other, because literally every number, every symbol, you know, all of it is neutral, 100% of it, and you can use it in positive ways and you can use it in negative ways, and it's always going to be true. That's just like letters, it's like words, you know, like you can give it meaning or you can take it away.
Right.
But these people are also doing this intentionally for a purpose, and it ends up being negative, right? So like it's just like those same people are like, almost every single one of them has to get in a fucking bathtub, like often filled with blood on a checkerboard floor. And it's like, and a lot of it, it's like, well, you're clearly just looking for attention because this is like popular and everybody's looking for the Illuminati and whatever. Right. And, you know, there's all of that to it. Or even these stupid shoes that little fuck came out with, and, you know, they've got blood in them or whatever. And it's like, well, ooh, you're so fucking edgy. Like, who cares? But obviously also to them, it's like they're trying to harvest that fear for their own gain, right? And so they are using it negatively, and it does become evil and dark and saturated with this shit, and you can't like undo that if that's what you're creating with it.
Yeah, it's just muddied up, and there'll never be a shortage of signs, and the only way to change its meaning again is like when you're doing this with the white, is like when you're doing this was always the 666. Everyone always knew that. You look at Michael Jackson's first solo album when he was a child, he's doing this. You look at Yellow Submarine, John Lennon's going like this, and Paul McCartney's going like this on the cover. It's just blatantly out in the open, and they start subverting it and putting it a little more hidden, this, that, and the other thing. And the only way you could change symbols like this, which is the 666, which is originally this, the lotus position of meditation, is if you give it some new fucked up meaning, like white power, which makes no sense.
Right. It doesn't even connect. But then that's the whole thing too, is like, you know, why are they trying to take all of these things and turn them into this, right? They're using it to signal to each other that they're in this club or whatever. But they're also, there's a reason why they don't want us to look at them as positive, right? Because they have power. And if we know that and we use them.
Symbols do have power.
Yeah.
Symbols. I don't know if you're into. I know you're into astrotheology, but have you ever read any of the grimoires?
I mean, I have looked at many grimoires. I haven't read them per se, like page to page.
You've never read the Red Dragon? You've never read the Red Dragon?
I think I have it in my Kindle.
Oh my God, it's a grimoire. It's a grimoire that tells you specifically how to summon Satan and get him to do your bidding.
Yeah, I think I have that on my Sony e-reader.
It's an incredible book. But yeah, this stuff is. It's all astrotheology.
I'm not saying people should summon Satan. I'm saying that you can, you know, use certain mudras, which literally just means hand positions, and have certain effects, and you can use that with the right intention and, you know, maybe even at the right time or whatnot, and you can have really positive effects in your life.
Satan in Hebrew just means adversary. The word hashatan, which is the word that it comes from, Satan means adversary.
Right.
So two UFC fighters, two basketball teams playing one another, they're just Satans to one another. That's what Satan means.
Yes.
Satan is not a red devil with all this nonsense that we've attributed to it. Well, and Lucifer. I'm sorry, I'm listening.
I would disagree, just in that now that we have this conception collectively and we've put so much energy into it, that I would say there is definitely an entity that's going to adopt that power. And like, do you know what I mean? I don't think I know exactly what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. And yet, you know, egregores and this idea of what does Rupert Sheldrake call it? Morphogenetic fields. Like, we're creating things as we put energy and intention into them. So while there wasn't a Satan, and it did just mean adversary, and it was just used to describe that energy or that archetype in the world, I would guess that by now, at this point, after thousands of years of people believing there was an individual being called Satan that has these qualities, that there is some energy cluster out there that's like, fuck yeah, I'll do that. I'll be that. Like, here I am. Like, I think by now we've got that now. You know?
I mean, I never actually thought of it that way. That's interesting, you know, but to me, everything is astrotheology to me anyway. Like Lucifer, for example, you know, the Christians will say Lucifer is Satan. They're one and the same. They are not. You know, Satan does mean adversary. And as far as Lucifer goes, he's known as the morning star. Well, the morning star
totally
is this, the morning star, Lucifer, the morning star. The morning star is just Venus rising above the sun in the morning. You know, it announces the arrival of God's son every day. That's what Lucifer is. He's the lucent one. He's Lucy in the sky with diamonds. You know, he's Venus, and his pentagram. If you take Venus, since he's Venus, if you take Venus and Earth and you go around the sun in a period of 1 year time, they almost connect at 5 points. You connect that, that makes the pentagram. It's all just star stuff.
Yeah.
All of this. And Lucifer is considered the morning star too. Okay, the light bringer, I should say. He's the light bringer. And in Genesis 1:3, God says, let there be light. Well, how is there going to be light without the light bringer? So right away in the first sentence, Lucifer is mentioned, even if not by name, but by action. You know, and that's the history. Now people invert Lucifer and they throw him into hell and they say this and that. It's just astrology to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know how you see it.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely astrotheology. But again, I don't pretend that there aren't beings and entities that use the morphogenetic fields we create in order to do whatever they like with them, which can be dangerous to fuck with. But, you know, some people do it anyway. But I don't go fucking with entities or not. But yeah, so you're absolutely right. The astrotheology is a very real pattern that exists in every single religion all around the world, all throughout history. And so there's no doubt about that. And there's no doubt about, you know, that it was encoded over and over again, probably primarily to help people, you know when to harvest and when to plant and when to, like, these are the times of the year.
I was on a podcast where one of them said it to me, and I've been saying it since then. He's like, the way you talk about it, you know, it's just an encoded farmer's almanac.
Yeah.
Which is what it is.
Yeah, and you're not the first person to point that out or say that, right? That's just the way that.
No, I didn't say I invented it.
No, I know.
I just said I'd never heard it before a specific podcast.
The farmer's almanac
recently.
reference. Yeah. No, I haven't either. But it's like, well, yeah, you would look at the stars and you would, like, teach your kids, okay, like, here's this pattern, right? And you watch that, and now when that happens, you can do this. And, like, this starts to become, you can just imagine, it's like everything about humans, you could look back and imagine how this developed in, like, symbiosis with nature. You know, we're living in nature. We're going to, like, learn to do these things, and we're going to act this way, and that just makes sense. So absolutely that's true. But I don't also pretend that there aren't, you know, entities that are non-corporeal that, and that we don't, you know, it's very obvious to me, again, like Rupert Sheldrake's idea to put it in like a materialist framework that morphogenetic fields exist and that we create things with our mind, or, you know, to students of Judaism, they might call it, oh my God, I forgot the beings you create with your intention. I forget what they're called, but, you know, or egregores is another way of thinking of that, of just this idea of, like, you literally are creating every time you think and every time you emote and every time you put energy into something. And so, like, is there a being, again, that, like, wants to adopt that morphogenetic field of Satan? Like, yeah, I'm not going to pretend I know for sure there's not. And I'm definitely not going to go summoning that, because if it has all of that energy that we've put into it, it's not going to be in a real good state of mind or being, right? Like, I don't want that energy around me.
I agree. I would just think that if we had a crew, if there are energies out there that step into these roles, I would think two things. Number one, it would be almost beneath them, I think, to basically just jump into a role like this that dumb little human minds have created. And number two, maybe someone will jump into it. Maybe an entity could jump into it and take the attributes, but then that would be them manifesting themselves in order to fit this narrative in a certain way. And I don't think there's any real proof that there's any type of energy beings or things of that nature that can step into a position as opposed to who they already are. Because what you're basically saying is you're saying that someone could step in and be Satan.
Yeah.
Okay, but who are they really? Because they're not Satan.
Well, I mean, no, there's no proof of jinn or any of these entities, and yet we have
Right.
people who describe them and experience them all throughout history. So I know
Mhm.
they exist. I don't need to prove to anyone else they do. And do jinn, the way jinn are described is there's like ancient, huge, powerful jinn, and there's tiny little baby jinn, and there's these ones that have these vast understandings that would never even trifle with humans because we're like not worth their time. And then there's the little baby ones that are like, yeah, this is all I can fucking even handle, so I'm gonna fuck with you. And like, would that one, would it be beneath them to adopt a role? I wouldn't pretend to know,
Fair enough. I've never really heard it before, so I'm just kind of working this out with you right now because I'd never really thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot. I mean, there's entities that take on all kinds of forms. Like they'll pretend to be your dead uncle. Like I'm not.
So you don't think that there are entities in the sense that like you can communicate with their soul? You think that it's all malevolent from all these
No.
like people who pretend to be your dead uncle or whatever? You don't think that it's a possibility that it could be?
No, I just had an interaction with my dead dad. Like that was definitely him. But there are also entities that could pretend to be my dead dad.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so then how do you begin to unpack that?
What do you mean?
How do you, I guess not unpack that. I guess the word would be, how do you begin to get wise as to who's who or what's what? And if you are trying to channel something or go into the spiritual realm, how do you do it the proper way without starting some...
I don't channel anything, and I advise everyone else not to either, because exactly what you're saying is a very, very skilled art form of discernment. And, especially people who are just starting to interact with spiritual forces I would think have very little success rate in determining. So I literally teach people about it. So it's not something we could probably cover in like 10 minutes on a show, but, there's whole entire systems of various traditions dedicated to exactly that.
Okay. That's why I asked you about the grimoire earlier, because that's what they basically do, is they teach you how to summon exact entities.
Yeah, they do.
So let me go through these last two, and then we'll see where this conversation takes me, because you're always so interesting to talk to.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. So this one, have you ever seen like pictures of Lucifer or Jesus or Baphomet with the fingers up like this? It's always the two fingers up.
Yes.
Jesus too. Sometimes it looks like this. It's a little crooked, but it's always two fingers up. This right here is an ancient Egyptian Kemetic peace sign. Okay, that's where it comes from.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's an ancient Egyptian peace sign. This right here that we think is a peace sign is the British victory, V for victory, war sign.
Which is an inverted death sign.
Exactly. So when you're doing this, you're not actually ascribing certain energies to people as far as peace goes. If you want to be peaceful, you do this. And that's why Jesus, Lucifer, and all of them do this. It's because they're telling you that it goes back to the Egyptians and that they are peaceful.
I like that. Yeah, but I also think, because again, I know like ignorance hinders some things, and that if you don't know the intentions of something and you're using it, you can be feeding these egregores and these, morphogenetic fields unintentionally.
So because me and you understand now, or because, I mean, you knew some of these, but because you understand now these original intentions, if you start using these symbols now, do you think that your intention completely changes as far as what you summon or what you do? Do you think it's knowledge? It's the knowledge of it that
I don't think I summon anything with any of my hand symbols. So I don't think I was ever doing that. But yes, that's what I was just going to say is like, I still think if I'm doing this to someone and I mean peace and I'm sending them happiness, that they're going to receive peace and happiness, and they're intending to receive peace and happiness. And I think it's very possible that if I don't know the history of it, that I'm also sending some energy to that intention and whatever sigil power they're using, sigil magic they're using this for.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
But now, especially, I know the history, and I'm like intentionally saying like, I'm not sending any energy to that. I'm just sending you happy peace energy, and you're intending to receive only happy peace energy. That's all that's happening.
So it's not lost on you that these 8 symbols that I've done so far, all actually at their origin are the opposite of what they are now.
No, I mean that's the whole game. That's all they ever do is inversion, you know? That's exactly their point. And that's exactly my point about it, is that they're still harnessing negative energy by doing that. They're still confusing us by doing that. And then they're also disempowering us by limiting our ability to use these in the positive way for ourselves, which was the question
Right.
I was going to ask you, is if you use these for yourself in a positive way.
I do. I think that by me knowing the intention, I know the original intention. And I think that if I were to do this in public, somebody might have a heart attack. But I think that I know the original intention, the original meaning behind it. And that's what I look for, is I look for the original of it. Like my last one is the upside down cross. They say it's Satanist, right? Or Satanism as people understand it to be. But it's not. It's actually it's from the Bible. It's St. Peter's cross. It's the upside down cross, where St. Peter said that he wasn't to be crucified in the same way that Jesus was. He wasn't worthy of that. So he decided to be crucified upside down. So that's a pure symbol of respect and love. It's terrible. It's a terrible way to go.
And before that, I'm guessing it was the Hanged Man. Well, now I wonder if the Hanged Man preceded that in some culture or another, you know, or just that idea.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to look into that a little bit. That could be interesting.
Because the Hanged Man is also, I think, a lot of people when it comes up in readings are like, you know, oh, it's a huge hang up. It's going to be a big problem for you. And it's an impasse. And I'm like, dude, this is your chance to like let all the fucking shit go and literally just hang there with this moment of like release and relief.
Isn't that kind of what basically the death card is? I mean, it doesn't actually necessarily mean death.
Yeah, well, you're right in that it doesn't mean death, but it's a different meaning from the Hanged Man. But yeah, it's definitely just it's the death of something, right? Like you're leaving behind some stage or whatever. We all go through that multiple times in our lives. And could it mean actual death? Like, sure, but pretty rarely, you know, it's much more often like, that's a stage you're going to leave behind now and you can grieve it and then move on.
Right. Because that's basically the history of the Torah. I mean, the Torah, tarot. That's where it basically comes from. Everything you place your intention on the card and then it reveals itself. That's the idea behind the tarot. I mean, I get my charts read every time something good or bad happens to me. I have an astrologer in Kentucky.
That's awesome.
She's so brilliant, and I get my chart read to see, you know, what should I be on the eye for, what should I look for, and if people would just take that stuff seriously, you know, and that's kind of why I wrote this book series. Is that, you know, people can argue Jesus was the son or Jesus wasn't the son all they want, but at the end of the day, I'm just trying to mainstream it to show, you know, that's why I wrote the thriller series the way that I did, is because I'm trying to do a crossover mainstream appeal that nobody who's teaching astrotheology is doing. As far as I know, nobody's written a book series in the way that I have, where they uncovered this information. And a lot of it is my own original work too. Most of it is my original work, to be honest with you. And I've done PowerPoint presentations and I've done all sorts of stuff for it. But that's just basically what I'm trying to do, is I'm just trying to bring it to the masses.
Yeah, and that's a fun way to do it too, through fiction, because it's like, what better way to learn something than through a fun story, right? Narrative is our best.
You get away with everything when you write fiction. That's another reason. I was originally going to write a nonfiction book, and then I thought people are just going to rip it apart. No one's going to read it.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought to write a fiction series, and it turns out that I'm actually a pretty good writer.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you were led to do it, and it was what you loved. Mm-hmm. And that makes it, I'm sure, much more fun to read, too. I still haven't started, but I have them, and I'm going to. But I have, you know, my whole life is a series of, like, 48 books sitting on my bedstand, and me, you know, finding time to get through them sometimes. So, you know, it happens. It'll happen.
I assumed as much. You're super busy. You'll get through them.
Yeah, I'm, like, writing, like, 4 books and doing this show 3 times a week, and, like, someday I'll read some more shit, but... And I go back and forth, too, between nonfiction and fiction, because it's really weird. I used to only read fiction, and then I slowly started reading nonfiction, and now I almost only read nonfiction. And I love fiction still, but I just rarely read it. It's so interesting. Right. It's just how shit works out.
I'll have to bring you back to our side of the pond.
Yeah. Yeah. I write nonfiction, or I write fiction, and I read nonfiction. But I'm like you. I'm like taking all the nonfiction, you know, and putting it into my fiction so that people can learn a lot without struggling.
Well, it's not so much struggling, I think. It's when you write fiction, people when you're reading a story that somebody's written, you buy into their universe that they've created, because otherwise it doesn't work. Otherwise you can't, you can't take a story seriously if you're not buying into the universe. So in my universe, the world is ruled by people who use astrology negatively against people, and it's been going on for thousands of years. And I write how it actually has been.
Yeah, it's
'Cause it has been.
nonfiction masked as fiction. But you're absolutely right.
Exactly.
People want narratives. I mean, that's what we relate to. We narrativize everything. When we don't narrativize our experiences, that's how PTSD occurs. Like, it's a dysfunction of our brain if we don't put things into a narrative form. Like, that's what we are. We're narrative creatures. So it's really what people want. It's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope people out there are already grabbing it in the Rogue Ways community. I know last time I think you had like an offer for people. I can't remember if you still do.
Yes, it
Okay.
still stands. It still stands.
And what was it, just for people listening?
What you do is you follow me on Twitter or Facebook. In Facebook, I have a group called Micah Dank, Into the Rabbit Hole. You could join the group. Facebook and Twitter, follow me, friend me. Reach out to me. I sell signed author copies. So in our community, a lot of people, more people than I actually thought initially, don't want to give their money to Amazon.
Yeah.
So, I sell them direct, and the profits come directly to me. And I mail them out twice a month, because they basically, the orders just pile up. And then I go to the post office every 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
But everybody that reaches out to me or reaches out to me, I'll reach out to them and see what they thought. I'll send them other podcasts that I've done, just to get them down this rabbit hole. Because there's a quote by Socrates that I love, and it said, labor your time with the works of men who have, I'm going to fuck this up, but he basically, in a long story short, he says, read the work of men who have labored hard for, so that which has been difficult for them comes to you easy. Which is true, because you got like
Good
Manly
job,
P. Hall, who
Socrates.
put you've got Manly P. Hall, who put all this stuff in, he put all his time and effort into this. And then you could or like Alan Watts or someone, you could just, you know what I mean? Love Alan Watts. And
Or
then
Alan
you could
Watt.
just, yeah. And then you can just, you learn easily,
Because you're standing on the shoulder of giants. This is why our, human endeavors are so neat, because we all get to pile on top of each other and build, if we do, or we live in a society where they intentionally try to keep you stupid so that you never can, which we also do. But those of us here in this community like to stand on the shoulders of giants and get further and further, rather than falling further and further behind. But that's awesome that you have that offer available for people, and they can join up in your group and follow you and do all of that. And is there any other things you have coming up or projects you have going on that you want to let people know about?
Well, my publicist has currently the ear of a TV movie producer.
That's rad.
And my first 3 books are with them. And before anyone calls me like a sellout bitch,
why would that be selling out? Fuck those people.
No, but that's the idea. That's the idea, is just to basically mainstream this.
Well, because, like we were saying, people don't really read nonfiction. They read some fiction, but way more than any of that, they watch shit. So why wouldn't you want to put it in a fucking movie?
And there's all these streaming services. There's, Hulu, and there's Netflix, and there's Peacock, and there's all this stuff coming out.
Yeah. No, you, of course you will. You're going to be like, no, don't make my book into a movie, please. Like, why?
Yeah.
People are so weird.
Yeah, you'd be surprised the kind of hate I get sometimes.
No, I'm not,
usually,
because people do it to me too, but I just tell them to fuck off because I don't care.
It's funny. It's funny because I literally just live off of positive feedback. And if I get negative feedback, look, you're talking to a guy that it took me 3 years to land an agent.
Yeah, it's a fucking nightmare
with
out there.
with like 130 rejection letters.
Totally.
And then I landed an agent, and then it took me 3 years to get a book deal, and I ended up getting a 6-book deal.
That's right.
And I've had over 300 rejections, and I kept them all. So negativity just rolls off of me.
Yeah.
I feed off of positivity.
You have to on this. You're exactly right. I know. I've had a ton too.
And then it's just basically hustling around the podcast community and just, having people understand my work.
Which,
and
that
where
part
I come
is fun.
from. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, and people don't really, I think, understand how awesome it is to get the positive feedback, because the people are way more likely to like snap at you and like lash out if they're upset about something or they found something they don't like. They're way less likely to tell you how much they love you. And I think people out there assume that we know, like, that they love us or our work or something, but no, we don't know until you tell us. So it's really cool.
No, it's true.
I have this person.
So reach out to me, everybody.
Yeah. I have this guy, Max. Hi, Max. I love you, Max. Max always comments on my videos and says something sweet, and I swear to God, I like live for it. I'm like, oh, Max is gonna comment. It's gonna be awesome. So hi, Max. Thank you for all you do. But yeah, you guys, if you love someone, tell them. If you like their work, tell them, because a lot of people don't hear it enough. So do it. Speaking of that, obviously, both Micah and I, I'm sure, would love for you to share anything we do, too. People ask me sometimes, like, can I share this? And I'm like, yeah, please do. Please, if you like it and you know people who would like it, please share. Tell people about it. Tell people about Micah's books. Tell people about my show, my books, like all of it. Tell people about the things you love, especially if you think that
you know what the interesting thing. You know what the interesting thing too is, Lindsay, is that because of what I talk about, I don't talk about politics. I don't talk about things like vaccines, 9/11, or things that are like super controversial.
Right.
Okay. And because of that, my episodes that I do on people's podcasts fly under the radar. So even though I'm talking about real shit, people listen to it and they're like, nah, he's not a threat, or this and that. You know, it doesn't fall under disinformation or any of that. You know, so I still. Yeah. So, I mean, it's got to be hard, because there's nothing more than I'd like to do than to just jump on the bandwagon. But I don't even talk left or right politics. You know, some of my closest friends know how I feel about certain things. But the most open community has been kind of like the right-wing leaning conspiracy crowd. That's kind of like the groups.
It was weird when the right wing adopted like all conspiracy theory, but that was definitely a planned move. That's not an organic thing. There's conspiracy people.
I would love to. You know what I want to do next time I have a podcast with you? I want to ask you the questions, and I want you to just talk because you are so interesting.
Thank you.
You are so interesting. I like the way you think. And you have kids too?
Oh no. If I say kids, I mean my students. I call them my kids. Yeah. So if I've ever said my kids, I meant my students. Okay, I forget that people won't know who I'm talking about when I say that, but no, I've never had kids. I've never had my biological kids or adopted kids. I've just had massive amounts of students who are basically my children, because I love them like they were, and it's fucking ridiculous how much I love them. But yeah, some of them show up on the chat sometimes. They're like, "Hey, Miss Brown." I'm like, "What's up, Clayton?" or whoever it is. Like, it's weird. I'm sure they're like, "Holy shit, I had no idea my teacher was insane." But
honestly, yeah, you have to have I love those memes where I see like when going down a rabbit hole and it's like Matthew McConaughey where he looks all like freaking suited up and gorgeous and everything. And then the next one is him with like AIDS, and it's like, this is what going down the rabbit hole feels like. Yeah. It's him like 80 pounds lighter screaming in the car. Like, that's what it's like when you break your paradigms and you start to realize that everything's been inverted and things have been perverted, and what you're actually being fed is garbage.
Well, and that's a common misconception about me, because I left teaching and did this show, and I think people thought that I started thinking all of this when I did that, but I was awake long before that. That's why I went into teaching, was to try and protect kids from the horrifying system that we've created for them and try to get some of them to be able to think at least a little bit. But none of them would have ever known that, because it's like a sacred duty of mine to not inform their opinions, but just teach them to think. So they should never know what I think about anything, right? So they would never have known anyways. But it's even some of my people in my personal life like had no idea, and I'm like, how did you, like, I was never hiding my opinions about things except from my students. So I'm not sure, but yeah, it's definitely a long and crazy wild ride that can take you, like, you know, when you see like new people waking up, you're like, whoa, pump the brakes, buddy, like, go slow, homie. That's
what people usually do. They're like, people will be like, I loved Lindsay's episode with you, you know, can I get the books? And then like, I'll do that. And then at the end, I'll send them 10 or 12 of my favorite videos that I've ever done. And I'll be like, here, watch this. And then they'll come back to me like crying sometimes. They'll be like, it's just too much.
Yeah. No, it seriously is. And some people break, and it's like kind of scary. And so that was
But that's what everybody has to do. You have to have you have to have like an emotional break almost. You have to have a breakdown. You have to have a rebuilding of yourself, you know, once you start to learn this kind of stuff.
And hopefully you go like, hopefully you can keep going and you don't revert, because that's the other thing, right? If people like break too quickly, they're like, nope, I'm gonna go back into safety land and like call all of you guys names and never look at this again. Which is fine. That's what you need to do, but it's like sad. So it's, if you can go like a little bit slower, you maybe can go a little bit further for some people, right?
I agree. I agree.
Which is another reason why fiction is a great way to do it, because you can be like, I don't know, is it? Maybe. Like, you can play with it a little bit more in like a more safe area. Right?
That's my idea. That's my idea.
That's smart. That's smart.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you've already told people where to find you and what your books are, but one more time, throw it out, because I know people are probably gonna be like, what the hell? This is like the first live stream you've done in forever, and it's really short, but that's just the way we agreed it was going to be tonight. So remind them where to go to find you and how to grab your books.
So I'm on Twitter and Facebook at Micah Dank. Reach out to me and I will reach out to you. I'll have a conversation. I'll send you my videos. I'm on Facebook. I have a group, Micah Dank Into the Rabbit Hole. And you can get my books on Amazon, but if you really don't want to, you can get them directly through me.
Awesome. And do you have any final thoughts you want to leave people with about hand symbols or any of the other things we talked about?
Just when you're so sure of something, when you think that you've been told something in the media or you're so sure of something, okay, like when you're to the point where it's not even questionable for you, that's when you should question and look into it. Okay, that's exactly when, and that's the key. People are going to be like, how do I know? Well, the things that you never question, those are the things you should question the hardest. And you might not be coming down me or Lindsay's rabbit hole at the end of the day. You may not, we might not be the right teacher for you. Maybe we'll get you started, which would be great, but maybe this is too much for you, or maybe it's not the right thinking, but find something that's there. I'm always blown away by people who just, you're born with your religion, your skin color, you're this, you're that, and then you're basically given a fictional identity, and then you spend your whole life defending it. I find it impossible to not grow as a human being unless you completely disassociate from everything that you thought you were.
It's well said and great advice, and thank you very much, fellow travelers of the path. It is a beautiful thing, and this has been your analog electric concentric dose of wisdom according to the author Micah Danks. Danks. Micah Dank. Micah, thank you for sharing with us tonight and for coming back onto Rogue.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Everything is inverted. Literally everything. This was a message I was given years ago, and the more I prodded the messenger to confirm that I already understood, the more the message was repeated. No, literally everything. What? Like the power we truly hold as humans? No, literally everything. Okay, so the way our eye and brain works to turn everything around and upside down? No, everything. Oh, so like the inside is the outside and up is down? Well, you're getting closer. But literally everything. Symbols are no exception. Those we are meant to fear may well hold the most truth for us to uncover within ourselves, and those we are led to believe are the most empowering may divert our energy to some waiting egregore. So until you uncover the center where you can truly see how much is inverted on this plane, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah. Oh, and I love you guys, and thanks for putting up with my road trip that I took and all of the pre-recorded episodes. I know it's way more fun if we can all chat live together, but I definitely had a really great vacation. If you didn't check it out on Rockfin, you can go watch most of the vacation there where I put it together for you in another Rogueways road trip episode. And it's only there on Rockfin, but it's for everybody. It's free, so you can go find it and watch it and see some beauty and some fun things. And I hope you enjoyed the little April Fool's trick that we played. It was fun. We've been wanting to do an April Fool's episode for a long time, but that one was just really funny. So hopefully no one got scared that I actually disappeared and missing 411 style. But yeah, it's good to be back. And just so you guys know, coming up, we have some fun episodes. So we've got John Sneeson, I hope I'm saying his name right. We're going to talk about the economy and economics, and he is really smart about all of that stuff, and that's going to be this Tuesday. And then on Thursday on Rockfin, we're going to talk about ancient temples, their alignment, and how they are in accordance with our energetic chakra system. So that's going to be really fun to do on Rockfin on the Middle Path this Thursday. We've got Deborah Gets Red Pilled is going to come on Rogue Ways this coming Sunday. So both people are coming on to hang out with us. They're super fun, so that's going to be great. We've got David Stephen coming back. He's always so fun to talk to. He's up in Canada, and the government has basically been trying to fuck with him ever since his son died. They basically murdered his son, like that whole sad tragedy. He's such an amazing person. His family's so amazing. And, of course, they're still fucking with him. So we're going to get an update on what's going on with the fight for freedom up there and check back in with him. And he has those awesome products that are so helpful for people with a lot of different mental illnesses. They're really, really profoundly powerful, and they're just various herbs and stuff. So there's that coming up too. We just have so much coming up. I'm not going to continue reading you the rest of the month of April, but I'm just very excited to be back and be doing shows again live. And again, I will see you this week for those fun shows and moving on into the future. So good to be back. Good to see you guys all again, and good night. Mwah.
I heard the Bilderbergers called you, and I was like, hello? Hello? Ain't nobody answering shit, man. I mean, for real, man. I must have hung up. Phone rang again. And I was like, hello? Ain't nobody even answering, dog. Some real shit, man. They tapping my telephone. It's really the real when you step to the plate. And it ain't too late to change your ways of being fake. Humans create with creativity, so make what you create to shine through. All niggas wanna do is shine. Make your view rhyme, but the deaf to the blind. For those left behind, I crept and I climbed to the top of my mind. And I found I've been taught to be conformed, and I was never warned of the signs. Crimes committed as an adolescent, now I'm trapped through the system stressing. With aggression and emotive, through passion and emotion, to set the truth in motion. They gave me Zola for a rainy day, and they gave me Zyprexa to sleep my life away. Society's labeled a man to be bipolar. Might as well gave me heroin and Coca-Cola. This is how Western medicines work. This is also how Western religions work. And Americans work 9 to 5. Not asking the questions of how, when, where, what, and why. I remain on the quest thirsty for salvation. With a taste of blood, with a fallen warrior's dream of surviving this flood of chaos. Those who continue to judge a book by its cover are way off. Breaking these laws of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chances of life to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chances of life to revive an immortal lie.
We're conditioned to be housebroken and weekend. Labor all week, pay them, and with the rest, drown away the weekend. Wires and voltages set strategically to damage chakras. Make sure to take those prescriptions given to you by the doctor. Wash it down with contaminated water. Worship a holy father, eat trash food, remain drained for the Illuminati's daughter. Through molestation, unnoticed by the blind line in every nation. Not allowed to know God is present in each and every individual. Ancient truth forgotten except the Bohemian Grove rituals. Inbred bloodlines created a ruling class of elites cold as reptiles. The awoken even see the signs on the streets. Encryptions pass off as fiction and paranoia reaction. 33s and Moses skulls are laughing right now with Kennedy's assassin. 2 pillars burning. History repeats as I babble on truth. Write down our fate for centuries. I change their plans when I'm up in the booth.
Everlasting pressures of life got me up in the night, not knowing if I'm wrong or right. Something within me tells me to fight, and it's like I'm trying to find the true nature of being God-like versus religious beliefs, which indeed tells me I'm doomed from day one out the womb. They want us to be consumed with fear, with negative thoughts engineered to fear God, and that's to fear oneself, and that's real. You tell me that I'm imperfect. How is that when everything's for a reason? You forget that everything is meant to be. But they got us withering away, not knowing sacred geometry, which degrades philosophy of every soul, in which they try to control your mind with limitations, over exceeding your expectations. You'll be considered an outcast with lacerations, so I continue to master patience, creating ways to make it through the Piscean age. that's getting close to the Aquarian stage. As I stand strong on my God-given ride, it's my life against all lies to penetrate these imprisoned walls that creates flaws and false laws. So y'all niggas better recognize before you die, before you had the chance to survive. And that's right, these bars of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive, to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive, to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive, to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive, to revive an immortal lie.